Okay, these are going to be assembly instructions for this uh, mounting plate for these slow motors. Like all the motors in the yellow kit, the motors have a Lego axle that you can attach things to. But the slow motor that you buy off Amazon uh, has a certain shaped shaft that you have to somehow couple to, so you have to build an assembly here to connect the Lego axle to this motor shaft. And then the motor is mounted in this yellow plate that enables us, it has holes here where we can put in make-do screws and attach to a piece of cardboard. And then there's also a jack here. This is a so-called XT30 jack that will let us plug in solar panels to make the motor go. So that's the goal, and let's get started in the assembly.
So this image shows the parts that you'll need to gather in order to build this assembly. And let me just talk through it quickly, going from top to bottom, left to right. The slow motor is something that you can buy off Amazon. And to the right of that is the Lego axle that we'll use. It's a 3 centimeter long axle. And if you don't have a 3 centimeter long axle, you can get a longer one. And then with a hacksaw, you can easily cut it down to size. It doesn't have to be precisely 3 centimeters. In the next row, we see the jack that I mentioned, this XT30 jack. The motors have so-called male jacks, and to the right of the XT30 jack are the two 3D printed parts that you'll need to form the assembly that couples the Lego axle to the shaft of the slow motor. Um, they come in two halves, a top and a bottom. And then the other 3D printed part that you'll need to make is the mounting plate. And then below that, this assembly is held together by screws. The screws are all M3, that means it's metric. The M means metric, 3 means it's 3 millimeters in diameter, and they're socket head screws. And there are 5 in total. 2 of them are 16 millimeters long, one of them is 12 meters long, and the other last 2 are 8 millimeters long. And then you'll need nuts for 4 of these screws. You'll need 4 M3 hex nuts, and then finally you'll need an Allen wrench, which is a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench, in order to tighten the socket head screws. Okay, so in step 1, you're going to take the bottom half of the shaft coupler and 2 of the hex nuts and just lay them in the places for them. And it's just gravity that's keeping them in place. So throughout most of the assembly, you're going to have to make sure that you don't tip this piece over, because the nuts will fall out. Okay, now in this step, we're going to attach the shaft of the motor into the 3D printed part. And if you look carefully, you'll see that the motor shaft has flats on 2 sides, and the hole in the coupler is of matching shape. So if you fiddle around, you can put it in. And notice I kept the hex nuts from falling out. That is, I was careful not to tip things over. Okay, so the shaft on the slow motor is threaded for an M3 screw. So grab the 12 millimeter long M3 screw and just you can finger tighten it at first. There's a hole in the bottom half of the shaft coupler that you can just slide it into and finger tighten it, as is being shown here. And again, being careful not to tip things upside down, and then just grab the Allen wrench and tighten. Don't over tighten, but you want things kind of snug. So you can look at the video and get a sense of how hard I'm pushing. Okay, so in this step, we're going to use the two 16 millimeter M3 screws to attach the top half of the shaft coupler to the bottom. And you've got to line up the holes uh, for these 16 millimeter screws. You have to look at where they are, and you can sort of feel your way around and get them to line up. But the idea is we're going to finger tighten these 16 millimeter long screws until they engage with the hex nuts. So you don't want to turn too quickly. You want to feel them engage, and they have to be pretty far in before they'll engage. So they might not fully engage until the last step where we're going to use the Allen wrench to tighten things. Um, and again, until you're sure that the hex nuts are engaged, you want to keep from tilting things upside down. But we're getting there here. And now I'm going to grab the Allen wrench. I'm going to take the long end first because I don't want to tighten with too much torque. And now I can feel it at this point. I think it's engaged the nut, and that's going to hold everything together. You want to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we're done. Just the last final tightening, and we're good to go. Okay, in this step, we're going to secure the motor to the mounting plate. Notice the mounting plate has a top and a bottom. You want to have the side that's shown here in the image facing up. And then you're going to insert the motor as is being shown here. And then we're going to use the two 8 millimeter M3 screws to secure the motor to the mounting plate. Uh, so you want to come in with the socket head on the back of the mounting plate, and you're going to put the hex nuts on the top of the mounting plate, and then you can use finger tightening in the initial stages. We'll get a good snug in the last step here, but for now, finger tightening is good. And I should just point out that I'm choosing to orient the motor so that the wires come out of the motor on the side opposite to the location where the XT30 jack is going to be placed. And as we'll see, that'll just lead to a slightly neater way of routing the wires to the XT30 jack when it comes time to solder them. So you should orient the motor this way. And now you just want to do the same thing on the other side. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And now you want to grab a pair of needle nose pliers and grab onto the hex nut. And on the other side, engage the uh, the socket head screw with the Allen wrench, and use that to tighten things up on both sides. Here we go. Pretty good. Okay, so now it's time to glue in the Lego axle. Use this Loctite super glue. Just a drop of it is all you're going to need just to keep the Lego axle in place. And just be careful not to get any on your fingers when you do this. And just push it in so it's all the way in. It doesn't go in very far. It goes in less than maybe a half a centimeter or so. And just let it set for a while. I usually let it set for an hour or so. Okay, and the last steps are going to be a little bit hard to video, but let me show you where we're headed. The goal is to uh, glue on. Eventually, we're going to glue on this XT30 connector, and then solder these wires from the motor onto the XT30 connector. So I'm going to have to be doing some soldering when I do that. So I won't be able to videotape it, but I'll show some still images and I'll talk over it. So to solder those fine uh, wires from the motor onto the XT30 connector, it takes a little bit of care. An important concept is the idea of pre-tinning. You want to put solder on each of the parts that you're going to join together first, and then just use a soldering iron at the end in the last stage to sort of merge them together. So this close-up shows I've taken the XT30 connector, I'm holding it in a vise, and I've pre-tinned solder on both of these pins coming off the rear. So you're going to want to carefully do that. Okay, so now we're going to want to glue the XT30 jack in. You're going to put a bead of glue in the position shown. Make sure you're on the right side of the mounting plate. Don't put the glue on the wrong side. And then you're similarly going to want to spread a little bit of glue on the underside of the XT30 and try to get a little bit of glue on the posts there because that's really going to help secure things. And then very carefully, without getting glue on your fingers, you want to set the XT30 into position in the mounting plate as is shown here. And then in the final step, it's important to get some sort of vise to hold things together snugly and wait for the glue to set. It's super glue. It's pretty fast setting, but I, again, usually leave it for an hour or so just to be sure. So you want to take about at least 50 millimeters of wire, and the wire that comes with the motors is a little bit longer than that. So you can clip off the ends, but leave at least 50 millimeters of wire. And then you're going to want to use a wire stripper to strip off about 8 millimeters of insulation. It's number 26 gauge wire, so you need the right wire stripper. And be gentle with it. This is delicate wire. And you'll notice there's a little beads of gunk on the ends of the wire. That's solder flux, which if you have it, makes the next step easier. You want to pre-tin the ends of that copper wire. And if you have flux on there, it makes the solder flow more readily. And then you want to put a nice little hook. I use a fine needle nose or a pair of tweezers to sort of bend the wire around. The solder makes it kind of stiff, so it's easy to bend. And we're going to use those hooks to hook on to the XT30 connector. So you can see I've actually hooked on the wire here. And it's actually, you can't quite tell from looking at it, but it's actually soldered in place. It's a little bit delicate procedure, but you want to hold the wire hook in the right position on one hand, and then just come in with a hot solder iron and use the hot soldering iron to merge the two pre-tinned things together. It's important to note that it's the red wire that's sort of on the terminal that's farthest away from the motor, and the polarity sort of matters here. We want the motors to behave in a consistent fashion when they're connected to the solar panel. And the black wire goes on the terminal that's nearest to the motor. And same thing, I held it in place. They were both parts were pre-tinned, and it just merged together. The soldering is probably the trickiest part of the whole assembly, so you're going to need a steady hand uh, and take some care when you do it. So the good news is we're done, except for it's helpful to take a little piece of black Gorilla Tape and tape the wires on the back down to keep them out of the way and to provide a little bit of strain relief. So that's it. You're done now, and hopefully it all went well, and you can hook a solar panel out and take your motor out in the sun and give it a spin. Bye bye.